Welcome back to the Media Unrestricted podcast. I'm Chase.
And I'm Dylan.
In just this video, we will be doing our review for Spider-Man No Way Home. Since we knew it was going to be a long video, we just wanted to easily break it down for you just in one video. So here we go. As you all know from Out of the Theater Thoughts, me and Dylan both absolutely love this film. I gave it a 9.8 out of 10, and he gave it a 9.75 out of 10. We absolutely love this movie and found it to be easily our favorite Spider-Man movie. And I'm not sure about him, but this is my favorite MCU movie. Yes, you hear that right. I love it more than Avengers Endgame. Um, I just been thinking about it over time, and I just absolutely adored this movie, and it just had I mean, Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man No Way Home, they're right where they are. I mean, they're right. I mean, right under each other as my favorites easily, but No Way Home just was top notch and just will be now my favorite of the MCU. And um, like I said, I love this movie so much. I had a smile on my face majority of the whole film, except for some of the sad and emotional parts. But I mean, there was a smile on my face throughout this whole movie because it's so entertaining, so fun. Just the humor for me, most of it all worked. It landed, and just the action was insanely fun and just it just is a movie that doesn't like let go. It just keeps you entertained throughout the whole damn movie. But you know, Tom Holland was just top notch in this movie. I mean, he has been great through all the Spider-Man things and Homecoming, Far From Home, Civil War, all the Avengers. Um, he has done fantastic. But I mean, he was just amazing, top notch in this movie as Peter and Spider Man. He just did it so good. This is the one that I think will definitely be probably. I'm curious to see how it goes from here, but be easily his best Spider Man movie. The Peter and MJ relationship, as I said, is easily at its strongest in this film. I mean, Toby and Kirsten Dunst, like their relationship throughout those three movies definitely grew. But this one is definitely at its strongest, and definitely the relationship that is more relatable to the comics, and a relationship that you love to see, that Marvel relationship. Um, but I mean, it doesn't take that long to get into it, which is I think is the best thing about this movie. Because sometimes you feel like it may wait a little slowly, kind of bring in those villains, but no. I feel like Doc Ock made his appearance on that bridge scene probably in at least that 30-minute mark. I might be wrong, but it came so quick. And that bridge scene was so awesome and a great thing to see. But I'll get into more of that here shortly. But yeah, I mean, once it gets going, there's nothing boring. It gets you really into the film. I just loved it so much. Like I said, so many times. It doesn't really feel long at all. I mean, this is 2.5 hours. Does not feel like that. It feels about an hour and a half. I promise you that. This movie is done so well. Um, I mean, just getting right into it. I mean, it starts with as we left off in Far From Home in the end credit scene with everybody knowing that Peter is Spider-Man. So it kind of kicks right off where that was. And we get our once Peter gets MJ home. Matt Murdock is at the beginning of this movie. So yes, Daredevil has made his appearance. Well, I guess because just Matt Murdock is in this thing as his lawyer and everything. But his quick appearance was great, and it's kind of like like this movie, easily this is gonna be great right off that bat. Because I mean, no more than about 10 15 minutes. There he is. So it's like yes, we're in for a great movie. And getting around to that bridge scene, because right after it goes, Peter goes to the NIT, NIT, I think, right? Um, because Peter, MJ, and Ned did not get in because of their conflict with Spider-Man and everything. So he goes to try to get them in, not worry about him, but get him in. and then Doc Ock makes his appearance in his almighty glory, and this is insane. This scene is just insane. I mean, there's so much great action. Like, definitely the way we saw in IMAX was the great way to see it, because you get all the great angles and everything. But just, I mean, Alfred Molina did not miss a beat. I'll tell you that easily. Did not miss a beat. And it was so great to see him back on the big screen, because I never thought I would see him back on the big screen again. When I saw Spider-Man 2 back in 2004, I thought that was it. Seeing him again just brought back those good childhood memories, because he nailed it. And also, Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin makes his quick appearance here at this scene. As you see in the trailer, where he comes out of the thing and it cuts, like, goes away off of that. So they kind of did a Godzilla 2014 with the kind of take it away from you. But Willem Dafoe is fantastic in this movie. Some of the lines he brought, he was scary. He was just great in this film. I love Willem Dafoe. He did not miss a beat again. I know he did the stunts again, like he did in Spider-Man 2002. Just great. I'm glad Willem Dafoe is still wanting to do that. He said that was the only way he's coming back, and he nailed it. Jamie Foxx's Electro was a great and a perfect comeback, definitely after his appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I kind of felt bad for how they did Electro. I'm not the biggest Jamie Foxx fan anyways as an actor, but he was just awesome in this movie. He was just, I'm just glad to see him get that second chance at redemption and bring a good thing to Electro, because Electro was actually really good in this movie. Cause I'm not the biggest knowing of Electro, but I mean, I feel like they probably did him better than, like I said, what Amazing Spider-Man 2 did. The Lizard, not as great as I wish he would have been, and as great as he was in Amazing Spider-Man, but it was still nice to see him back. I just feel like they just didn't do much with him. I feel like he was kind of just there, but when he did have a couple of bright spots in there. And then also kind of the same for Sandman. I just felt like those are the two characters that kind of just like, okay, we care about Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Electro. We don't care about the other ones. But I mean, it's still great to see Sandman back. Same actor as well. Just so great to see him. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson is absolutely fantastic once again. This role has been his to take from the very beginning. He has nailed it perfectly since Spider-Man 2002, and he's just ran with it. And it was so great to see him back at the end of Far From Home. And for the little bit he is in this, he is very, very good. And I just, I gotta see more. I gotta see him back, and again and again and again. Um, Middle of the movie, we lose Aunt May, which was kind of a shock to me. I really did not expect it, but I kind of had a feeling about how it was gonna go in there. Whenever Green Goblin kind of turned his evil, because he was good at first, the evil wasn't out of him yet, but it kind of finally came out, and losing Aunt May was definitely a surprise to me. I just did not expect it. The emotions didn't hit me as hard, but I definitely see it maybe in the future growing on me, because um, the actress who plays her did a great job. Aunt May is such a good character. I know Dylan, you can tell his part, but yeah, I know he kind of lost it on that one. But yeah, it was kind of a shock to me losing her. But moving on, other bright spots. You had to know it was coming. Toby and Andrew coming back was just everything and so much more. Just so great seeing them again. Because I mean, you had to know they were going to be there, and yeah, they are, and it's just so great to see them. And definitely, there's one part in this movie where it's just Toby, Andrew, and Tom. They're just having like a banter, just talking about the villains and all this stuff. That is for the fans. as a perfect moment, and I think will definitely live in MCU history, Marvel history, everything, movie history, to be honest. This was such a great scene. Definitely just seeing that. There's so many, like I said, great laughs in this movie. I heard going in that some of the laughs don't land, but I feel like the majority of it all landed. Like, one of my favorites was when Ned asked Toby if he had a friend, and he goes on to tell him about Harry and everything, and how he kind of became evil, and kind of the look on Ned's face, like, uh, uh, that was just great. Learning that also in that laugh, but kind of learning that in Toby's world that MJ and Peter maybe actually worked it out and everything. It was great to hear kind of a reference to his world. But my favorite moment of laughter was easily when um, they start working together, and they can't work together as a team because they never done it before. But Tom brings up, I've been part of the team. I've been part of the Avengers. I'm not going to brag. And Tobey Maguire goes, "That's great. What is that?" And then Andrew goes, "Oh, are you in a band?" And he goes, "No, it's not a band. You're Earth's Mightiest Heroes. You guys don't have that. How is that helping us?" That's what Toby says. Um, I just, I just adore that. It's just that banter, and I just thought that was so funny. I've gone on YouTube and just kind of looked that scene up, and I just laugh every single time. I loved it so much. Um, the final fight scene altogether is just fun, fantastic, action packed, and just something that Spider-Man fans I think will always remember. Just all that moment of seeing all three Spider-Mans working together as one and kicking ass. It is definitely, like I said, an IMAX worthy scene. Definitely a big screen scene. Please, everyone, just kind of breaking this up. Please make sure you see this in the theaters. You're not going to want to wait till it comes out onto demands and all the Blu-rays and DVDs. You are not going to want to wait. You are going to want to be in the theaters experiencing this movie. This is an absolute thrill ride. Um, and definitely like one of the moments that I think everybody knew was going to happen when they all kind of like posed together, like swinging together. Um, Up in the corners, you had Toby, I think Andrew, and then middle was Tom. That was just a great scene. Great kind of, that's a easily, like, if you could just screenshot that picture, that's a poster worthy shot. Um, I will definitely always remember just this whole scene as a whole. Um, and then at the end of that fight, they turn everyone kind of like back to normal. Seeing Tobey Maguire Spider-Man talking to Doc Ock again was really nice because they had that little theme to it, and it just this movie's just so much for the fans, and I just loved it so much with all that stuff. Um, they turn everyone back into normal. Um, but then like toward that is that last fight scene between Tom and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Tom kind of, he's like, he wants to really kill him. He's kind of like had that snap, and Toby stops him. And then Toby gets stabbed in the back. Kind of everyone in the theater, I know I did, Dylan did, just like, like, no, 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 let's not do Tony Stark again. Let's not do it. But and then Toby makes a great joke saying, "I've been stabbed before, so I'm okay," which is true. That's really great. But then, yeah, all the villains and like Toby and Andrew, they get sent back to their home. Um, and then, so then, only way to really send them home, because all the other villains are coming in, as Peter must lose his remembrance. Everybody won't be able to remember him. So that's kind of that's a big thing. It sets up a big future for the MCU. Definitely, because later on, MJ, before they lose their thing, she tells them to remember, say "I love you." And MJ is working at a diner, which is a reference to Spider-Man 2002, by the way, which is really cool. Anyways, but he goes to the diner and Ned's there, and he can't stand it. He doesn't want to, because he doesn't want to get them back into what they were at the beginning of the film. He just wants them to just not remember who he is. And then there's a point where they go to the grave of Aunt May and talk to Happy. Peter does, and kind of like they bring up Tony and everything, which kind of brings the sad thing again. But I feel like we'll be living with that forever, sadly. But he just doesn't want anyone to remember who he is. And then Peter gets his own apartment, leading to a new suit, which is a kind of a very comic book style look to it, like a metallic blue and red. It looks fantastic. I love that so much. I can't wait to see how it looks, because you don't really get a great full look at it, but it looks great. But yeah, so then Peter decides to more or less start a new life, and that's kind of how that goes for the whole movie. And moving on to those end credit scenes, the first one sets up kind of where Venom Let There Be Carnage left off, with Tom Hardy being in kind of he's at a bar learning about kind of what has happened and what's going on in this universe. And he kind of goes, maybe I should pay a visit to this Spider-Man. But then he goes back and like how that kind of took him away. But the part of it, the symbiote was left on the counter, the bar counter, and it starts to move. So the Venom symbiote is now in the MCU. So what does that mean? Nobody knows. And does that mean Tom Holland and Tom Hardy fighting again may never happen? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of questions going into this end credit scene. I still liked it. I know, Dylan, I don't think you didn't like it, but I still liked it. Just to see it, Tom Hardy, and just knowing that soon, one day, we will have somebody in that symbiote. And then the last one was the Doctor Strange 2 trailer. Um, Finally getting the Enter the Multiverse, or whatever it's called. Um, which it was a fun trailer. Still not officially released yet, but I mean, I know there's bootleg footage. But this trailer was really good. It's going to be more or less Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange. So that what if, I think it's playing in. So um, I think that is our next MCU movie. So there's definitely an interesting future for what these two end credit scenes are going to be bringing. I know Morbius is technically the next Marvel movie, and that comes out just in a few weeks, actually. But I'm definitely excited to see where it goes. Like I said, 9.8 out of 10, easily my favorite Spider-Man movie, and now my favorite MCU movie as well. I definitely recommend you see this movie, and definitely see it in theaters as soon as possible. You are not going to want to wait. Just a fantastic fucking movie. I love it so much. But Dylan, give me your thoughts, man. Everything you got going on. What is your full thoughts? Spoiler right now.
I agree with everything you said, man. This was such a fantastic movie. Definitely my favorite Spider-Man movie. I don't I know why people like Spider-Man 2, but I just think it's so overrated, honestly. Into the Spider-Verse was a great movie. The animation was great. I honestly didn't think the story in that movie was all that strong, personally. But I still had a fun time with it. But I had an even more fun time with this movie. This is my favorite Spider Man movie. And I think you're right. I think it is my favorite MCU movie as well. All the actors did a fantastic job. Obviously, Tom Holland is always going to be great. He's great in everything he does, especially as Spider Man, and seeing how his Spider Man's grown from the kid version of himself from the first one and the second one to being forced to just lose everything and grow up in this one. And it works out really well for his character, and it makes a ton of sense. His character, his best friends of Ned and his girlfriend MJ, like they're Jacob Batalon and Zendaya. They're perfect in this movie, honestly. Like they're just like the perfect sidekicks and best friends, and his girlfriend. Like the relationship between Tom Holland Spider Man and Zendaya's MJ it's like a perfect relationship in this movie, almost like They have a great back and forth, and you can tell that in their universe the characters really do care and love for each other, and you can feel it tug on your heartstrings every time they're forced to be separated, especially at the end where Peter is forced to forget that, or when MJ is forced to forget that Peter is her boyfriend, and you can just feel all of that. You can feel all of the character moments in this movie, and like Chase was mentioning with Aunt May's death, I did take it kind of hard because we did get to know her character throughout 3 different movies. And going to the big part, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, they did show up in this movie, and it was fantastic. I loved every second they were on screen. And they did reference the Spider-Man point meme, apparently. I still don't know where that was, but I'll have to watch the movie again to figure it out. But people said that they referenced the point meme in it, and I just don't remember that. But this movie really does have the Spider-Man like learning from each other, and like throughout this whole movie you just get the feel of brotherhood through them. Like they explain the struggles they've gone through as the 3 different Spider-Man, and all the things they've done throughout their lives, and who they've lost and what they've gone through, and it just brings them together more as Spider-Man, and as like they're all variants of the same persons, but they all just feel like brothers, and they treat each other like brothers. And I really love that dynamic in this movie. And one of my absolute favorite shots, or actually, yeah, one of my absolute favorite shots of the movie is at the end, right before Toby and Andrew are about to get sent back to their universes. All 3 Spider-Man just stand there and just have a big group hug. And it's just like, it's enough to make a grown man cry, honestly, because it's just like, you would never think to see Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, and Tom Holland Spider-Man just standing together, hugging each other, and just talking about their brotherhood and stuff. You just never think that would be something you would ever see in your lifetime, but here we have it, like in this movie. It's absolutely insane. Going to the villains. The villains are what I'm gonna end my personal side of the review on. They were all pretty well. I agree with Chase, except for Sandman and Lizard. They didn't really give them much to do at all. Obviously, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin stole the entire movie. Willem Dafoe really deserves an Oscar nomination for this movie. Like, no joke. He was fantastic in this movie. He really stole the show, and he looks the same as he did 20 years ago. I don't know if that's the Marvel de-aging or what that is, or if that's just how he just looks, because I've seen him in interviews and he looks exactly the same still. So I don't know how much de-aging they really had to do, but for anybody who was concerned about his new costume, all it is just his old costume with a cloak on and without his mask. That's literally all his new costume is, because it's literally just the body of his old costume, but just without the helmet and a cloak on. That's all it is. And no matter what he wears or what he's doing, he always rocks it in this movie. Doc Ock in this movie is great too. You really get the feeling that he was ripped right out of Spider-Man 2, because he references like "Where's my machine," which is a reference to the very end of the movie, where Peter and Doc Ock are fighting over control of the machine when Doc Ock is still evil. That's before he got his inhibitor chip fixed in the back of his neck. And he rocks this movie. He really feels like he was ripped straight out of Spider-Man 2, and it's awesome. Electro was great in this movie too. It's so nice to see him get an actual redemption for his character in Amazing Spider-Man 2, because they butchered that character in that movie. Like, I don't know what they did to it, but it was just bad. But I'm really glad they gave him, I guess you'd call it a glow up in this movie, because it really shows, and it was really needed. And I'm really glad they did him right in this movie finally, and they actually made people actually give a shit about Electro again. Who else am I forgetting? Let's see. Sandman, Electro, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Lizard. Oh, it's just Lizard. Sandman and Lizard. Like I said, Sandman and Lizard, they didn't really give them much to do at all. Lizard was just kind of there. We barely heard him talk at all. And Sandman, he had some cool lines. Like, whenever he first was introduced in this movie, he actually saved Peter from Electro because he thought he was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because they do should tell us that it left off what happened in Spider-Man 3, where he was good and was on good terms with Peter because he thought he was he thought he was Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker. So that was a cool detail they threw in there, and I'm for the Raimi fans, and I'm glad they really did. And that really led into him turning evil throughout the rest of the movie because he saw Peter sucking up Electro into the thing, and he's like, "What'd you do to him?" And then Tom Holland's like, "I promise it's nothing bad. Just come with me, and I'll show you." He's like, "No, I'm not coming with you. What'd you do to him?" And he doesn't really explain it, and that's what causes Sandman to go bad in this movie because he thinks he just saw Peter basically killing Electro, and he's like, "Why would you do that? I thought we were on good terms." That kind of stuff. And it's just such a fantastic movie. All the villains were, for the most part, were great. All the like the human characters were great, I thought. And I just loved every minute of this movie. I don't think there was ever a dull moment. And like Chase said, to me, all the jokes landed pretty well. So, like Chase said, I gave it a 9.75 out of 10 because there were a few nitpicks, like those few villains and a few things that weren't really explained. Like why Doctor Strange has the Eye of Agamotto necklace on again, even though it doesn't have the Time Stone in it. So I don't know what the point of the necklace is, because Thanos, if you remember in Infinity War, he crushed it with his hand because he was looking. Because I think the Black Order might have taken it off him, and the Black Order might have taken it off him, and Thanos crushed it with his hand, and it wasn't in there because he had it in like a pocket or something. But yeah, just a few things, nitpicks, but overall, I thought the movie was great. The end credits, like Chase said, the Venom mid-credit scene really disappointed me, mainly because I was really hoping we'd get Tom Hardy's Venom in the MCU, because really wanted to see him fight Tom Holland. Like, I really wanted to see that so bad, but just as quickly as he came to the MCU, he left, and I guess the silver lining there is that it left a little piece of the Venom symbiote behind, and we're going to get Venom in the MCU. We don't know what capacity. Maybe it's going to attach itself to Peter, and then after that, it's going to go over to Flash Thompson, like they do in the comics. There's some issues where Flash Thompson becomes Venom instead of Eddie Brock, so maybe that's the side of it they're going. They're not going to have an Eddie Brock in the MCU. They're just going to do straight Flash Thompson Venom, which would be cool. I'd be down for it. And then, like Chase said, the second post-credit scene was the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness teaser trailer. And I loved every second of this teaser trailer. I know it didn't really reveal much, but we saw some things that are just kind of insane. We saw Christine's wedding. Steven was at Christine's wedding. We saw America Chavez right next to Steven in the crate. And then we also got to see what looked like Strange Supreme from the What If series. So all of that's pretty nuts, We just don't know where this movie's gonna go. There were talks that they had recent extensive reshoots because they wanted to redo some scenes and add in some cameos and characters that they couldn't do during peak COVID, because that's when they filmed it. So I'm interested to see where that movie goes and to see where everything else in the MCU goes after all of this.